Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Bradshaw, and today we have a special guest, Lindsey Hancock. We met through social media, through a mutual friend who is also a cancer survivor and thriver. And I am so happy that we all connected and are on the same wavelength when it comes to our journeys, each different stories, but on the same wavelength. And I'm so thrilled to have her on. She is the founder and owner of Raw Awakening. And without further ado, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What an intro.
You're welcome. So, Lindsey, why don't you tell the listeners about your story, about your journey, as a fellow cancer survivor and thriver, and how you kind of landed where you are today?
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have?
Yeah, right.
So, first off, do you know that it is Cancer Survivor Awareness Month?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I saw that yesterday. Oh, this is amazing. Wow.
I don't know when it will air, right? But right now, today, June is Cancer Survivor Awareness Month. So that's just super amazing that it's so aligned, and we're having this conversation.
So aligned. I love this. Oh my gosh.
So I just had my first speaking engagement at
I saw.
Yeah, it was VCon. So Diva Girl Wellness. So that was really exciting. I actually got to share a lot of my story, which I spent years never telling anybody. Nobody had any idea that I even had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even tell my parents while I was going through it. So the fact that I'm telling the public and sharing this now is pretty crazy. But the amount of I'm sure you get it too, DMs and messages from people thanking you for sharing it just, it's validating. But I mean, my story starts in 2009. I was 18. It started pre-cancer cells on my cervix, and then it was procedure after procedure, 6-month checkup. Let's do another procedure. And it was years of this, and I got fed up, and I was like, forget it. I'm not going to the doctor anymore. I took a break, and then it's 2013. I had excruciating pain and blood in my urine, and I went to the hospital, and they were like, your cancer's back, and it's stage 3.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, a shock. I did 8 rounds of chemo and radiation, was told it would be highly unlikely for me to be able to conceive, let alone carry a baby full term if I did conceive. I have 2 babies via birth. So, and I attribute that to the stuff that I'm trying to push out there with Raw Awakening, right? So healing your womb, holistic healthcare, speaking to people in this community, like-minded individuals, healing my body with my mind and my herbs and everything. It's lifestyle, right? So it's all intertwined, but my journey is definitely my why for what I do.
Oh, I love it. Now, when you were going through this process, let's kind of go back, because you were young, you were 18 years old, you're going to different doctors, you become fed up, you're put in this, the system, quote unquote system. And what was your first move, I guess you could say? What was your, did you go immediately to chemotherapy? How did you navigate through this?
So the first initial ones, right, so I received the Gardasil shot. I had all 3 rounds. My parents made me have it when I was 17 years old because, God forbid, I was a sexually active teen. But then I'm 17 and a half, 18 years old, and they're like, there's pre-cancer on your cervix. So we do like a
Question
colposcopy,
mark. I wonder how that works.
right? I mean, I've had like 10 colposcopies. I think I've had 6 leaps. I did the cervical cryotherapy. Like it was just really persistent. And the thing was, so they never really asked my family history. But my mother had cervical cancer. Uh,
Oh,
yeah. I also 8 out of 10 people have HPV, right? I have HPV. That the 2 strands of HPV cause 80% of cervical cancer cases. So it's like they can't tell me if it's HPV, if it's hereditary. It's just it's persistent and it is what it is. So, it was all those procedures got fed up, right? When I went to the hospital, there was no no decision. It was you have to have chemo, you have to have radiation. It started to spread to my kidneys. They didn't want it to go further. So they removed it from my cervix and then the chemo and radiation to make sure that it was away from my kidneys and didn't spread anywhere else. So, and I mean, at that point I'm like 22, 23 years old. And I'm like, okay, like, yes, doctor, like, of course, like, I'm not going to question them. You're scared.
right.
You don't know how to advocate for yourself. None of the information that like I just spewed is given to us as young girls, let alone grown women.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people like you and me and Danielle, and like we need to advocate and educate the masses.
Absolutely. That because it's just funny that you're bringing like all of these different variables in because from like what I gather with how people develop cancer, it's virus plus a toxin equals cancer. And it
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight. And, it can be any type of virus. You can be asymptomatic and not have, kind of like HPV, right? Like the viral load is within your body. And
Yep.
then you pair that with the toxin. So like, what was the toxin? It could be emotional toxins, which
I was
is the
gonna say it could
number
be people. Yep. It could be
number one.
stress, your
Mm-hmm.
environment. Yep. And I was probably not being very kind to my body during this time. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think I relapsed at this point. I was partying, doing, a lot of things that I should not have been doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's the thing too. You blame yourself.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
comes the I deserve this mixed with the shame and the guilt, which is partly why I didn't tell my family because I was ashamed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you have like these other emotions on top of going through this. And I'm like mind blown that you didn't even like tell your family about this. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, because you're talking about how ashamed you were, but at the same time, like you went through the journey alone.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple really great friends who I'm super grateful for. Friends that I've had for a decade plus,
Mm-hmm.
that really helped through that. But yeah, it was just me for the most part, me and my cats.
What got you through like those tough moments, because you're young and going through chemotherapy and radiation, like you got to be in warrior mode. What was
Definitely. Yeah,
your
that's it.
mindset like? Mm-hmm.
I'm a warrior. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fighter. I always
Mm-hmm.
have been. My dad's military, my family's military. So you just like, you put your head down, you put your boots on and you get it done. Like
Mm-hmm.
just it is what it is. And I think I had enough trauma and shit going on that I was just like, I got to get rid of this so that I can like heal the rest of me. Like it
Yeah.
definitely was a big wake up call. Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially while you're blaming yourself and you do think it's your fault, as crappy as that place is, that type of like a bottom really can sprout the growth, right? And the evolution. And like it did create awareness for me. And I was like, I don't want this to ever happen again. So it's never going to happen again.
Mm-hmm. And you set your mind to it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, so after you go through your journey, you go through your treatment, what were some of the things that you decided to change in your lifestyle that prompted you to, get to this point in your life?
Yeah, definitely. Like vowing, I'm not doing drugs. I'm not going to smoke anymore. Right. Then the occasional cigarette with my beer, like at once every 3 years, but those like repetitive habits that were daily life habits, got rid of them. I rarely drink. That's on like special occasions. Tried like my best to like cut out sugar and gluten, and I'm really conscious of the types of food that I put in my body now. And that even, fluctuates, but my partner now, I'm so grateful for him. He's really conscious and aware of those things. So that definitely helps me. So it's like that part of your lifestyle change, right? Like the things you're putting in your body and being really aware of that, but also like, what am I doing for my body and what am I doing for my mind? So like exercise and like different types of exercise, realizing the power of your breath. I've been doing a lot of studying and different meditation practices and breathwork practices and my ice baths, like that. I attribute so much to that. Like the amount of health benefits that you get from taking an ice bath a couple of days a week is like astronomical. It actually changes your chemical makeup.
It's so cool.
It's wild.
It's so cool.
And therapy, different types of therapy. Like I do EMDR therapy. I do shadow work. I just sit and talk to my therapist too. But it's so important, trauma
Absolutely.
and all of that breeds sickness. If you're not getting rid of it, where is it going? It's just storing inside of you and it's making you sick.
Literally.
Right.
That's so cool though, because, and the other cancer survivors and thrivers that I've had on this podcast have said the same or similar message that you are saying right now, where it's like, and same with myself, breathwork, exercise, nutrition, herbs, plant medicine, whatever you want to call it, some type of therapy.
Healing. Like
what is it? Ancestral healing.
Yeah. Getting back to how our ancestors lived.
Yep. That's exactly right. So potent. Right. So this is why I have people like you on, because it's so important. Number one, to share your story, that communication and getting it out is so potent and powerful. And then number two, it encourages and educates other people. Oh, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
We weren't given those tools. I know I wasn't given those tools. I got my thyroid surgery. I went to a hospital that had an entire integrative floor. Like I'm talking acupuncture and everything. And they didn't even give me that as an option.
That's so wild to me.
Blows my mind. Yep. I didn't even know about it until after. And I'm like, what the hell? Like I could have done something like that.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, but still.
Yes, exactly. And, I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago too. I had endometriosis surgery. After 6 years of being told that I did not have endometriosis, I kept advocating for it. Yeah. And I finally found a doctor to listen to me. I had the surgery and she literally cut it out in 2 different places. Yeah. And
wow.
But like the recovery afterwards, like there's so much that they don't tell you and they don't talk to you about. Like a therapist absolutely should have come into my room. They should have been like, oh, you're a really active person. You're not going to be able to do anything for almost a week. And that's going to mess with you mentally. Like no one said any of this. So like, not only like, did I go through surgery? I went under anesthesia. I had a tube down my throat, like all of these things that I was really scared for. I also don't recognize my body, right? I'm bloated, I'm bruised. There's scars because there were tubes in me. I can't exercise. I can't do anything. I'm in pain. I have to lay around on the couch and ask for help. For someone like me, that's really freaking challenging.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy. The lack of, I think, education.
Yeah. That's why they need people like us.
You're telling me.
So switching gears a little bit, what got you into herbalism and developing your business, Raw Awakening, which is so fabulous? Like I love everything that you have. It's so it really does root us back to our ancestors and how they made things. So I'm really happy to see that you're doing that. I think it's phenomenal.
Thanks. So there's a couple like layers to that. My mom's kind of a hippie, so
Okay.
that's just something that was like normal and natural. But on the flip side, she was also a nurse for like 30 years.
Hmm.
So we, got both sides of that. But I started like digging into like some things from my childhood, and I was in New England visiting family a couple years ago, and my grandfather had these little things next to his nightstand, and it was a napkin that I had put like flowers in, and I wrote 10 cents on it, and I was selling these, and he said that was your herbal medicine. You would go into the garden and you would pick stuff and you would put it in these napkins, and he's like, you'd make me freaking buy it from you, but you said it was medicine.
Wow.
So crazy. Like I had forgotten all about this, but like seeing that kind of like triggered a memory for me. And then he like validated it and told me about it. Um, and like another thing I used to do in Maine when I was little was like pick like rocks and shells. And we would always go to the gem store, and I had all these gems. And he's like, you would put them outside in the moonlight, or you would put them, under the sun. And you said that it made them really powerful. So like I'd always been called to these things as a kid, but I feel like, society kind of like beats you down. It's you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to make something of yourself, right? And
Right.
that's usually attributed to how much money you make and what material possessions you have. And like, how freaking miserable was I doing that? Like, I didn't realize I was that unhappy. But now that COVID made me lose my job, which was a blessing in disguise. And
Absolutely.
I wrote down everything I wanted to be. Like if kids weren't a factor, if money wasn't a factor, and like the only thing that really stood out to me was raw awakening. And it just kind of started to snowball from there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I, it just because you're into this as well, your past lives, like you must have been a medicine woman
Yeah.
a couple times over. I know I was when I took a deep dive into like my past lives, but that is so cool that as a kid you were doing
Yeah.
that and didn't even realize.
Had no idea.
That is
Yeah.
so cool.
It was just like natural. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You forgot, you were asleep,
Yeah.
had the situation happen, and
Yeah.
then you woke up again.
Totally. Yeah. It's wild.
Wild.
It's wild what like our traumas block out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even like the good things, like
Mm-hmm.
our like protector parts of us are so intense and they're so good at their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and like my protector part drives me insane sometimes. I want to strangle her, but like she does her best, right? She does what she's supposed to do. But also when you're like trying to protect me, I'm missing all the things around it and like was all those like really good, beautiful, happy memories, you know?
So cool.
But
So now with Raw Awakening, what kind of like herbal medicine have you developed? Like, were there specific things that stood out to you more? Because I know with different, I guess you could say supplement lines, apothecary lines, there
yeah.
are certain things that they will stand out to, the founder and maker of, their product. So what kind of, I guess like what was your first product? Like what did you
Yeah.
decide to make?
So I kind of made them at the same time, but one was I just started making lavender lemonade, right?
Ooh.
I wanted to stop drinking alcohol, but I was waking up with wicked migraines. And I battled depression. So I just was like, lavender is such an amazing plant that like we don't realize like all of its
Mm-hmm.
like medicinal properties. But when you
Mm-hmm.
ingest it, it helps with your mood, it helps with depression, anxiety, it helps calm you, and then it helps cure migraines. So I was having a glass of lavender lemonade every morning, and I just started putting it on my Instagram, and I started giving samples out to my neighbors and my friends. And then I got invited to do like a sober sips where I made my lavender lemonade for like, all the people who were like mingling. So that was really cool. And at the same time, I have a lot of pain. I was a ballerina for a really long time. So I have like knots in my shoulders and my neck, and I don't take medication. So it's like, what do you do? I hate icy hot. Like, I'm not going to use
Right.
the types of like chemically things. So I made a sore muscle salve. and it actually
Phenomenal.
worked. Right. So I started giving that to family and friends. And, you know, my mom was like rheumatoid arthritis and she's like, Lindsey, this works. And I'm like, Mom, I know, like it works, right? Like it gets rid of your pain. She's like, I haven't taken an Advil in like, I don't know how long.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so there's something to this, right? Like that the salves are so easily accessible. You can
Mm.
have one in your car, one in your purse, one in your, you know, luggage when you're traveling. Like you don't have to swallow it. You literally just put it on and it's that powerful. You know, like
Mm.
what were our ancestors doing? They were going out into the woods and they were mashing up berries and they were putting them on like compresses and they were letting all of that like beautiful medicine soak into your skin and they were feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
So like salves are kind of like the base, like the bread and butter. And then I've started encapsulating because I would love to make tinctures someday down the line when I can have, you know, the dark room and the greenhouse and, you know, all the time in the world. But encapsulating is just like, it's easy and it's fun and it's effective. So we're like taking these beautiful plants and grinding them into a powder, putting them in a vegetarian capsule. You're swallowing it and you're feeling better. It's just easy, you know?
Oh, I love it so
Yeah,
much. This is the stuff that gets me hyped.
totally.
That's so cool. I love this so much. Um, I mean, everything we just spoke about was absolutely phenomenal. This is, I know the listeners are going to absolutely love this information that you have to give to them. And really it's just like bringing it back to basics, bringing it back.
Yeah.
So are there any words of wisdom you would like to leave the listeners before we sign off?
Advocate for yourself, educate yourself. And, you know, your voice is so important. So use it. Ask questions,
Please.
fight for yourself. Yeah. And, you know, have conversations. There's no stupid question, right? It's so important. I can't even stress it enough.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. So where can people find you?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. It's raw_awakening. We have a Facebook too. And then the website is rawaken.com.
Love that. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
If you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.